Good morning, 6th grade. Welcome to your Wednesday reading video. We're going to start off with a vocab word today, and that word is indignant. This word has a prefix, in, and that prefix means not. Remember, prefixes are at the beginning, suffixes are at the end. It also has a base or a root, and that means worthy of respect. So if you put those together, indignant has something to do with being not worthy of respect. And the definition I have for it, the certified definition, is a describing word for someone or something who shows or feels anger or annoyance at unfair treatment. Okay, so somebody in our book today is going to be indignant, and this is a picture of a lady who looks kind of indignant. She's annoyed at some unfair treatment. Okay? Now, you guys have been, the last several days, collecting evidence to support your line of thinking, which is you can be strong no matter what. I hope you have that memorized by now. Today, we are going to continue collecting evidence. We're going to start in chapter 11 on page 182. So go ahead and turn there in your Esperanza books. And then go ahead and take out your reader's notebooks and look for your evidence collection box. I'm going to be writing on this board today. If your evidence collection box is full, turn to a new page and write evidence at the top, just like I did. I will collect the first piece of evidence, and then you guys can collect the rest, or I'll give you time to collect the rest. As we stop, we're going to start on page 182, where it says, "It was the end of grape time." Okay, ready? It was the end of grape time when the doctor stopped Esperanza and Miguel in the hallway of the hospital before they could reach Mama's room. I asked the nurses to alert me when they saw you coming. Excuse me. I'm sorry to tell you that your mother has pneumonia. How can that be? Said Esperanza, her hands starting to shake as she stared at the doctor. I thought she was getting better. This disease, valley fever, makes the body tired and susceptible to other infections. We are treating her with medications. She is weak. I know this is hard for you, but we'd like to ask that she have no visitors for at least a month, maybe longer. We can't take a chance that she will contract another infection from any outside germs that might be brought into the hospital. Can I see her, just for a few moments? The doctor hesitated, then nodded and walked away. Esperanza hurried to Mama's bed and Miguel followed. Esperanza couldn't imagine not seeing her for so many weeks. Mama, said Esperanza. Mama slowly opened her eyes and gave Esperanza the smallest smile. She was thin and frail, her hair was strewn and bedraggled, and her face was so white that it seemed to fade into the sheets, as if she would sink into the bed and disappear forever. Mama looked like a ghost herself. The doctor said I can't come and visit for a while. Mama nodded, her eyelids slowly falling back down, as if it had been a burden to keep them up. Esperanza felt Miguel's hand on her shoulder. Anza, we should go, he said. But Esperanza would not move. She wanted to do something for Mama to help make her better. She noticed the brush and the hairpins on the bedside table. She carefully rolled Mama to her side and gathered all of her hair together. She brushed it and plaited it into a long braid. Wrapping it around Mama's head, she gently pinned it into place. Then she helped Mama lay on her back, her hair now framing her face against the white linens like a braided halo, like she used to wear in Aguas Calientes. Esperanza bent down close to Mama's ear. Don't worry, Mama. Remember, I will take care of everything. I am working and I can pay the bills. I love you, Mama said softly. I love you too. And as Esperanza turned to leave, she heard Mama whisper, no matter what. Okay, let me check the camera. Great, we're doing well. I'm going to stop there because I think there's a piece of evidence we could get from the section that we just read. And I'm thinking about when Esperanza has kind of switched roles with Mama. Okay, Esperanza now says she will take care of everything. So I'm writing this in my evidence collection box. Take care of everything. And that, I'm going to write the page number down again. We got out of that habit, but I think it's a good habit to be in, so we can always go back. Okay. This says, Esperanza says she will take care of everything, and you should be writing that in your reader's notebooks right now. That shows strength because that's not really Esperanza's job. She's the child and her mom's the mom, but because of their circumstances, she has to step up and be strong, and she's showing that she is being strong in this circumstance. So we're going to add it to our evidence. Pause the video if you need more time to write that down. And we are going to start reading again on page 185. Where it says, you need to get away from camp. Ready? You need to get away from camp, Esperanza, said Hortensia. She handed the grocery list and asked her to go to the market with Miguel. It is the first of spring and it's beautiful outside. I thought you and Josefina always looked forward to going to the market on Saturday, said Esperanza. We do, but today we are helping Melina and Irene make enchiladas. Could you go for us? Esperanza knew they were trying to keep her occupied. Mama had been in the hospital for 3 months, and Esperanza hadn't been allowed to visit for several weeks. Since then, Esperanza hadn't been acting like herself. She went through the motions of living. She was polite enough, answering everyone's questions with the simplest answers, but she was tormented by Mama's absence. Papa, Abuelita, Mama, who would be next? She crawled into bed as early as possible each night and curled her body into a tight ball and didn't move until morning. She knew Josefina and Hortensia were worried about her. She nodded to Hortensia, took the list, and went to find Miguel. Be sure to tell Miguel that you have to go to Mr. Yakoda's market, Hortensia called after her. Hortensia had been right about the weather. The fog and grayness had gone. The valley air was crisp and clean from recent rains. They drove along the fields of tall, feathery asparagus plants she would soon be packing. Citrus groves displayed their leftover fruit like decorations on Christmas trees. And even though it was still cool, there was an expectancy that Esperanza could smell, a rich, loamy odor that promised spring. Miguel, why must we always drive so far to shop at the Japanese market when there are other stores closer to Arvin? Some of the other market owners aren't as kind to the Mexicans as Mr. Yakoda, said Miguel. He stocks many of the things we need and he treats us like people. What do you mean? Esperanza, people here think that all Mexicans are alike. They think that we are uneducated, dirty, poor, and unskilled. It does not occur to them that many have been trained in professions in Mexico. Esperanza looked down at her clothes. She wore a shirtwaist dress that used to be Mama's, and before that, someone else's. Over the dress was a man's sweater with several buttons missing, which was also too big. She leaned up and looked in the mirror. Her face was tanned from weeks in the field, and she had taken to wearing her hair in a long braid, like Hortensia, because Mama had been right. It was more practical that way. Miguel, how could anyone look at me and think I was uneducated? He smiled at her joke. The fact remains, Esperanza, that you, for instance, have a better education than most people's children in this country, but no one is likely to recognize that or take time to learn it. America sees us as one big, brown group who are good for only manual labor. At this market, no one stares at us or treats us like outsiders or calls us dirty greasers. My father says that Mr. Yakoda is a very smart businessman. He is getting rich on other people's bad manners. Miguel's explanation was familiar. Esperanza's contact with Americans outside of the camp had been limited to the doctors and nurses at the hospital, but she had heard stories from others about how they were treated. There were special sections at a movie theater for Negroes and Mexicans. In town, parents did not want their children going to the same school with Mexicans. I'm making a connection right now to the book Sylvia and Aki, where Sylvia wasn't allowed to go to the school with the other children. Living away from town in the company camp had its advantages, she decided. The children all went to school together. White, Mexican, Japanese, Chinese, Filipino. It didn't seem to matter to anyone because they were all poor. Sometimes she felt as if she lived in a cocoon, protected from so much of the indignation. That's our vocab word, and remember it means annoyance or anger at being treated unfairly. So she's being protected from some of the indignation of the people around her. And maybe they just think they're being treated unfairly because they have to share their schools with the Mexican children and other people, or really they're just small-minded. We're still on page 188. Miguel pulled the truck into the parking lot at the market. I'll meet you. I'm going to talk about railroad jobs with those men gathered on the corner. Esperanza went inside. Mr. Yokota was from Tokyo, and the store had all sorts of Japanese cooking ingredients like seaweed and ginger and a fresh fish counter with fish that still had their heads. But there were Mexican products too, like masa de harina for tamales or chili for salsa, and big bags of dried beans for frijoles. There was even cow's intestine in meat case for muendo, and other specialties like chorizo and pig's feet. Esperanza's favorite part of the store was the ceiling that was crowded with peculiar combinations of Japanese paper lanterns and piñatas shaped like stars and donkeys. There was a small tissue donkey that Esperanza had not noticed before. It was like the one that Mama had bought her a few years ago. Esperanza had thought it was so cute and refused to break it, even though it had been filled with sweets. Instead, she had it hung in her room above her bed. The clerk walked by, and impulsively she pointed to the miniature piñata. Por favor, she said. Please? She bought other things she needed, including another money order. That was one more benefit of Mr. Yokota's market. She could buy money orders there. She was waiting in the truck when Miguel came back. Another money order? What do you do with them all? Asked Miguel. I saved them in my valise. They are for such small amounts, but together they'll be enough someday to bring Abuelita here. And the piñata? It's not anyone's birthday. I bought it from Mama. I'm going to ask the nurses to put it near her bed so she'll know that I'm thinking of her. Can we stop by the hospital on the way back? Will you cut a hole in the top so we can put caramels inside? The nurses can eat them. He took out his pocket knife and made an opening in the piñata. While Miguel drove, Esperanza began feeding in the caramels. Okay, we're going to stop there. And I want you to think about what is a piece of evidence that you could write down that demonstrates that Esperanza is being strong. So I'm going to write down a piece of evidence, and I want you to write something down in your notebooks as well. Okay. I don't know what you wrote down. Pause the video if you need more time to write it. But something that I think shows strength in Esperanza is that she does not let herself become angry at the unfair treatment of Mexicans. So at this point in history, Mexicans are being treated very unfairly, just like at the same time in history, Black people in America are being treated very unfairly. But she doesn't let it make her angry. Instead, she counts her blessings and says, maybe it's a good thing I'm living in this camp where all different kinds of children get to go to school together. So that shows good character, and another way that we could say that would be it shows strength. So again, it says, Esperanza does not let herself become angry at the treatment of Mexicans. And you can write that down with whatever you wrote as well. Oh, and I'm going to add the page number. It's on page 190. We're going to keep going. Okay, find where it says, not far down the main road. Not far down the main road, they approached an almond grove. The trees were flush with gray-green leaves and white blossoms. Esperanza noticed a girl and a woman walking hand in hand, each with a grocery bag in her other arm. She couldn't help but think what a nice scene it made, with the two women framed against so many spring blossoms. Esperanza recognized one of them. I think that's Marta. Miguel stopped the truck, then slowly backed up. We should give her a ride. Esperanza nodded, or reluctantly nodded, remembering the last time they'd given her a lift, but opened the door. Esperanza and Miguel, que buena suerte. What good luck, said Marta. This is my mother, Ada. Thanks for the ride. Marta's mother had the same short, curly black hair, but hers was sprinkled with gray. Miguel got out and put all the groceries in the truck bed so that they could sit in the front. Ada said, I heard about your mother, and I've been praying for her. Esperanza was surprised and touched. Thank you. I'm grateful. Are you coming to our camp? Asked Miguel. No, said Marta. As you probably know, I'm not welcome there. We're going a mile or so up the road to the strikers' farm. We were tossed out of the migrant work camp, and were told either to go back to work or leave, so we left. We aren't going to work under those disgusting conditions and for those pitiful wages. Ada was quiet and nodded when Marta talked about the strike. Esperanza felt a twinge of envy when she noticed that Marta never let go of her mother's hand. There are hundreds of us together at this farm, but thousands around the country, and more people join our cause each day. You are new here, but in time you'll understand what we're trying to change. Turn left, she said, pointing to a dirt road rutted with tire marks. Miguel turned down the path Miguel turned down the path bordered in cotton fields. Finally, they reached several acres of land surrounded by chain-linked fencing and barbed wire. Its single opening guarded by several men wearing armbands. Aquí, right here, said Ada. What are the guards for? Asked Esperanza. They are for protection, said Marta. The farmer who owns land is sympathetic to us, but a lot of people don't like the strikers causing trouble. We've had threats. The men take turn at the entrance. Miguel pulled the truck to the side of the road and stopped. Okay. I'm going to stop right there, and I want you to add one piece of evidence. In this case, it might not be Esperanza who's showing strength, but somebody else. Go ahead and add that to your evidence collection box, and I am going to add it to mine as well. Okay. Pause if you need more time. I wrote that something that shows strength is that Miguel stops to pick up Marta, which is on page 192. I think that shows strength because it can be hard to be nice to someone when they haven't been very nice to you. Marta hasn't been particularly nice to these guys, especially Esperanza, and yet Miguel is still choosing to be kind. So go ahead and write that down in addition to whatever you just wrote down in your evidence collection box. Pause the video here if you need more time. Okay, and that is where we're going to stop today, 6th grade. today and every day when you're reading, your free reading book, hopefully at some point, I want you to look for evidence that supports whatever line of thinking you've chosen to focus on throughout the book. Okay, that's it for today, 6th grade. I will see you again tomorrow.